June 28, 2005. The Kunar province of Afghanistan, the Hindu Kush Mountains. A Navy SEAL steps out from behind a rock ridge into a completely open clearing. There is no cover. There is no concealment. Enemy fighters are actively shooting at him from the high ground above. He can see them. They can see him. He knows exactly what exposure means at that range. He steps out anyway. He has a satellite phone in his hand. He has 3 dying men behind him who have no other way to call for help. And he has made a decision that every person who has ever heard this story has spent time trying to fully understand. His name was Lieutenant Michael P. Murphy. He was 29 years old. He was the officer in charge of a 4-man Navy SEAL reconnaissance team deep in Taliban territory. And what he did in that clearing earned him the Medal of Honor, awarded to his parents because he did not come home to receive it himself. Michael Murphy grew up in Patchogue, New York, on Long Island. He was not the kind of person whose story you can explain by pointing to hardship or desperation or a lack of other options. He was an exceptional student and a gifted athlete, captain of his high school hockey team, a lacrosse player in college, a pre-law student at Penn State who graduated with honors. He was accepted to multiple law schools. He turned them all down. He wanted to be a Navy SEAL. BUD/S, Basic Underwater Demolition and SEAL Training, is a 6-month selection course with an attrition rate that regularly exceeds 70%. Most candidates who begin it do not finish it. The training is not primarily designed to build physical fitness. It is designed to find the people who will not stop when stopping becomes the only rational option. Murphy passed his first time through. The people who trained and served with him described the same qualities consistently and independently of each other. He was the officer who took the hard task himself before assigning it to anyone else, the one who made sure his men had eaten and rested before he did, the one who, in the accounts of those who knew him, carried a particular and active sense of responsibility for the people in his charge that went beyond the requirements of his rank. That pattern of looking after the people around him is not incidental to what happened on June 28th. It is the explanation for it. In the summer of 2005, a Taliban commander named Ahmad Shah was operating in the mountains of Kunar province. His cell was responsible for the deaths of multiple United States Marines in the region. He was mobile, careful, and had proven consistently difficult to locate through conventional intelligence methods. Operation Red Wings was designed to solve that problem. Murphy's 4-man team, himself, Petty Officer 2nd Class Danny Dietz, Petty Officer 2nd Class Matthew Axelson, and Hospital Corpsman 2nd Class Marcus Luttrell would insert covertly by helicopter into the Sawtalo Sar mountain range. They would observe Shah's movements, identify his position, and relay targeting data to a quick reaction force that would act on their intelligence. It was a reconnaissance mission. 4 men, watching and reporting. It was not supposed to become a battle. The team inserted without incident in the early morning hours. They moved to their observation position and began their work. For several hours, Operation Red Wings was proceeding exactly as planned. Then 3 Afghan goat herders walked directly into their position. The team now faced a decision with no good options. They could not detain the herders safely, with no means of securing them during an active mission. Murphy would not order their deaths. They were unarmed civilians, an elderly man, a younger man, and a teenage boy, who had stumbled into the wrong place at the wrong time. Murphy made the call. They released them. Within approximately 1 hour, between 30 and 50 Taliban fighters were moving toward their position. The enemy came from above. The SEALs were on a slope that gave the attackers the high ground and a numerical advantage of roughly 10-1. All 4 men were wounded within the first minutes of contact. They fought back, moving and firing, trying to break contact and reach a position from which they could call for extraction. The radio would not reach. In the terrain of the Hindu Kush, satellite communication requires a clear line of sight to the sky. The ridge they were fighting on blocked the signal. Every attempt to reach the quick reaction force at Bagram Air Base failed. Murphy understood what that meant. No communication meant no rescue. No rescue meant 4 men fighting alone until they ran out of ammunition, cover, or time. The only position with a clear line of sight to the satellite was 30 meters away, in open ground, with no cover on any side. Murphy told his team he was going to make a call. He walked to the exposed position. He sat down. He pulled out his personal satellite phone and dialed the Joint Operations Center at Bagram. He got through. He gave their position. He gave their situation. He reported their casualties and requested immediate assistance. He was shot in the back while he was talking. He finished the transmission. Then he picked up his rifle, walked back to his men, and continued fighting. The Medal of Honor citation describes this moment in the precise, restrained language of official commendation. It reads, "Lieutenant Murphy risked his life by moving into the open, where he could gain a better position to transmit a call to obtain assistance for his teammates. Ignoring his wounds, he continued his transmission and was fatally wounded while speaking with his headquarters. He finished the call. The quick reaction force launched from Bagram immediately. A helicopter carrying 8 Navy SEALs and 8 Army Night Stalkers, the special operations aviators who fly for the SEAL teams, approached the mountainside. It was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade and went down. All 16 men aboard were killed. It was the single deadliest day in the history of the Navy SEALs. On the mountain, Danny Dietz was killed. Matthew Axelson was killed. Michael Murphy was killed. Marcus Luttrell survived, severely wounded, falling into a ravine that concealed him from the fighters searching for him. He was found by an Afghan man named Mohammed Gulab, who carried him to his village and sheltered him from the Taliban for 4 days, at mortal risk to himself and his family, honoring the ancient Pashtun code of hospitality that requires protection of a guest regardless of the cost. Luttrell was eventually recovered by Army Rangers. He was the only survivor of Operation Red Wings. On October 22, 2007, President George W. Bush placed the Medal of Honor around the neck of Daniel Murphy, Michael's father, at a ceremony at the White House. It was the first Medal of Honor awarded for action in Afghanistan. Maureen Murphy, Michael's mother, was there. His brother John was there. Michael was not. The Navy commissioned a destroyer in his name. The USS Michael Murphy, hull number DDG-112, was christened by his mother in 2011. It was the first United States warship named for a fallen hero of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. That ship is on the water right now, somewhere in the Atlantic or the Pacific, carrying his name. Every Memorial Day, hundreds of thousands of people around the world perform a workout called the Murph. 1-mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats. 1-mile run, done wearing a weight vest. Murphy designed it himself and called it body armor. The community that does it in his memory every year gave it his name. It is not comfortable to do. That is the point. It is supposed to cost something. He walked into the open. He made the call. He went back to his men. Everything that came after, the medal, the ship, the workout, the fact that people who never met him are still telling his story 20 years later, comes from those 3 sentences. Lieutenant Michael P. Murphy, United States Navy SEAL, 29 years old, Patchogue, New York. If this story meant something to you, subscribe. This channel exists to make sure stories like this one are not forgotten. And leave a comment. Did you know Michael Murphy's story before today? I read every single one.